a man who has committed a mistake and doesn't correct it is committing another mistake. This is a quote from Confucius, and today we're going to be talking about the legal mistakes you might be making with your email marketing. And if you already have an email marketer, they must know about these, because otherwise nobody really talks about these, and people just kind of go on Upwork, they hire an email marketer from whatever country, and they just kind of go. They don't really think about this. Oh, I have a really good legal setup, don't worry about it. But in reality, there's multiple, and this is one of those things, like I'm in an island right now, and a lot of people are riding motorbikes and motorcycles and without a helmet, and everyone is thinking like, oh, I'm not gonna have an accident, but many people have accidents every day. And it's the exact same thing with the legal aspects of email marketing. There's multiple stories there's this one story of a lady. She had a baking business, e-commerce, with like 20 employees, and because of a simple thing, which I think is going to be 0.5 on this list, which she wasn't doing, which is an honest mistake. You wouldn't know this unless you did a proper research into this. It's a little bit like taxes, like you need to really do a deep research, a deep dive. And because she wasn't doing this one thing, stay tuned for what it is, she got a penalty for like 100K lawsuit, and she went bankrupt. So stay tuned, and let's find out how to make sure that that doesn't happen for you. This video is not legal advice, okay? I'm just an email marketer, and I had to learn many of these things to limit the probability that my clients get any kind of lawsuits, because there's very clever lawyers out there, and all you can do is try to follow as many guidelines as possible. Let's dive into it. So first one, most important, can spam. This is in the US, covers commercial emails, not transactional. And the key rule is you always have to include a physical mailing address in your emails. If you don't include it, you could get fined for like 50K, as you can see. Tools like Klaviyo or Attentive, they automatically add a physical address in there because they require you to share it. Also, make sure there's an unsubscribe link in the emails, and it's easy and instant. Nowadays with Gmail, you have to do one-click unsubscribe, and otherwise you might end up have a really much bigger chance of landing in a spam folder than if you didn't have one. So make sure that you do that. And if you're using like misleading subject lines or from names, overly clickbaity stuff, you could have these penalties up to 50K. And super important, this also applies to cold email, by the way. Like if you're sending some cold emails, every cold email that you send, you're kind of risking this. And yeah, you kind of have to. I recently had a conversation with a guy from the US where it was cold email, and in the proposal we included in the first 1 year the breakdown of when are we going to break even, including if in the first year we get a can spam little penalty fee. So something that you must include in your business plan. Secondly, GDPR. Everyone knows about this. It was a really big deal a few years ago. This applies if you have any, Gemini said any EU subscribers. In reality, if you market to the EU, let's say you have a business in the US and you have a few sales here and there from the EU, in that case it should be fine. But if it's more than 5% of your sales, let's say, this is once again not legal advice, but this is just a general guideline of what kind of rules of thumb we were using. And if you follow it and you get caught, don't blame me, okay? But so far for us, these guidelines have worked. So more than 5% of your sales come from the European Union countries. By the way, if you're in the US and you don't know, there's many countries in Europe that are not part of the EU. So that's a whole different rules for like Switzerland, UK, countries like that. And yeah, so if you have a lot of sales from there, make sure that you ask for explicit content. So what does that consent? So what does that actually mean? So what that means is when you have a pop-up, and let's say you're selling in the US, it's usually enough if you have a checkbox not a checkbox, an email field. And then under the email field, you mention, by giving us your email, you agree to receiving emails from us in the future, some version of the sentence, and then click subscribe. But for example, in the EU, you need to have, email address, and then you have an I agree button, which is not pre-ticked. Okay, this is on a pop-up. By clicking on the submit button, I agree this company may use my personal data to send me personalized marketing communications by email about its products and services. I understand I can opt out at any time by following the instructions in email communication sent to me. So basically in the EU, you just have to use this one a lot more often. And also, by the way, with this can spam thing previously for the US, so there are different rules for different states. So if you want to be super certain of everything, just when you create a pop-up, just create one like this, okay? By the way, similar approach to SMS marketing too. You need to have SMS compliance, and we're going to talk about SMS a bit more in a bit more detail. So by submitting this form and signing up for texts, you consent to receive marketing text messages from XYZ company at the number provided, including messages sent by auto dialer. Consent is not a condition of purchase. Message and data rates may apply. Blah, blah, blah. Unsubscribe at any time. Stop to opt out. Continue. And then you include your privacy policy and terms page. And you can add the phone number here. And just a few more things about GDPR. So must have explicit consent. No pre-checked boxes. Very important. We talked about this just now. And you must clearly state why you collect data. Users can request deletion anytime. If you want to go the extra mile, you can keep the screenshots as well. All right, next one. CASL. So this is Canada specific. So this is one of the strictest laws globally. Requires express consent before sending any marketing email. Unsubscribes must be processed within 10 business days. And even a newsletter without consent can trigger fines. So like explicit consent. So by purchasing, technically, you're not allowed to send emails there. And this is just another example where I heard this phrase, the US innovates and Europe innovates, Europe regulates, where if something that you're noticing is in the US, it's actually a lot more friendly, the rules, and it's a lot more strict in Europe and Canada, for example, and also in Australia, by the way. So something you must know. So for example, we have this supplement brand in Australia, and they also sell in the US. And for the US, it's always like we can use a lot more things. We have a lot more tools at our disposal. Whereas in Australia, we have to be even more strict when it comes to like what are we allowed to say that this supplement does to you. Like we cannot say that it increases your energy. We can only say like it supports your testosterone levels, for example. So something to keep in mind. And I'm losing a lot of viewers in here at this point because it's a lot of legalese. So CCPA and CPRA, so this is California specific, but expanding to more US states. So this focuses on data privacy and transparency. Users must know what data you collect and can opt out of sale or sharing. Best practice is to add a clear privacy policy link in every footer. So this is quite straightforward, just add the privacy policy page. All right, SMS compliance. So TCPA and CTIA guidelines, so this is for the US, require separate written consent for SMS marketing, not bundled with email. So just because you have their email doesn't mean you can send them SMS. You have to include opt-out instructions at the end of every SMS. So reply stop to unsubscribed or opt out, something very clear like this. And also there's a lot of like quiet hours, which are different in the US. By the way, there are 4 time zones in the US, so you have to account for this. We have this one client who does drops every Friday at 10 a.m. and we have to like segment the different time zones differently. So between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. local time, that's when you can send the text, so like between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. And fines can hit $500 to $1,500 per message. So like, it's not, I sent out a campaign to 10,000 people, that's one message, that's 10,000 messages. So you do the math there. You don't want to get that fine. And yeah, if you use compliant platforms like Attentive or PostScript, even Klaviyo is good. This is kind of like they guide you through that whole process. All right. So this was, I was actually wrong. It's not 0.5, it's 0.6. If you watch the beginning of the video, this is what I talked about. American Disabilities Act of 1990. Basically, this one baking business in the US, they didn't include alt texts for images. So like when you have an image on an email and you hover over it with your mouse, it should say what the image is about because of Disabilities Act. So they didn't have alt texts. They got sued, bankrupt. Accessibility is increasingly seen as a legal requirement for digital communication. Ensure all your emails are readable for screen readers. Avoid tiny fonts or low contrast colors. Keep your layout simple, and accessible design not only prevents complaints, it increases engagement. It's actually, yeah, like the simpler simpler your emails, use font sizes. I like 16, 17 pixel fonts, and low contrast colors. All right. Other US state privacy laws. So like a different state, this is why it gets funny, because different states have different laws. Virginia, VCDPA, Colorado, CPA, Connecticut, that's a very long one, Utah, all have emerging email and data rules, and each has slight variations on consent, disclosure, and opt-out. But in general, if you follow a lot of these guidelines that I talk about in this video, you should be fine. Should be. This is not legal advice. More US states are aligning closer to GDPR-style privacy. And yeah, pro tip is treat every US subscriber as if they're in California, because California is kind of like the way that you future-proof your compliance, because it's the most, I don't know, futuristic, I guess. And yeah, honestly, that was about it for this video. It's a little bit more boring than some of the other ones, hence why I'm not a lawyer, and basically because it was that kind of video. But if you got this far, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, let us know. Or if you think that I missed out a very important one, I just kind of went for the number 7 because it's a beautiful number, and it has yeah, philosophical, that was the word that I was looking for, philosophical meaning in Eastern philosophy. So that's it. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.